Good afternoon. The speaker is still not here, but I thought maybe I can make a start and do a small introduction to the actual question, because we can maybe even initiate discussion if until he joins in. The today's topic is actually very important for us. It's about our judiciary, and then there's a lot of talk saying that the judiciary should be independent. And then the question that Basil was going to raise today was getting the constitution right is the key. That is what he was going to talk about. So, yeah, he has joined now. Um,
Is it okay now?
Yes, yes. I was just going
Okay.
to, yeah. Welcome and thank you for coming, Basil. I mean, it's a very important subject. I was just summarizing a little bit. Just give me 2 minutes. The judiciary and us in Sri Lanka. This is an issue that's brought up again and again and again in the recent times. And I thank Basil for particularly doing two videos in relation to getting the constitution is right before this talk, because people would have then listened to some background information and understand the arguments that he's going to bring in. So I have not, I mean, although he has spoken before, we only did a very brief introduction. I thought I should introduce Basil formally. And before doing that, I just want to know what we had done in relation to the 5-pillar governance that we developed in relation to driving the system change. So this is the framework that we had summarized into just 5 pages just about a month ago. And this is what we said about judiciary. The judiciary is vital for upholding the balance of power and ensuring the rule of law. It must maintain independence, accountability, and transparency. Quality assurance processes, ethical standards, and clear definitions of contempt of court are indispensable. Appointments, including those of the Chief Justice and Attorney General, should undergo a meritocratic process by the Judicial Services Commission, ratified by the Independent Constitution Council, comprising a majority of civil society professionals, ensuring transparency and preventing interference or undue influences in the administration of justice. The Chief Prosecutor's Office must also remain independent from the Attorney General's office. So these are the key things that we put in. But Basil will probably talk a little bit about that it is not that easy to achieve the ethical standards as well. So this is a very important aspect that we need to talk. Now, who is Basil? He's an author, he's a poet, he's a human rights activist, and also editor of Article 2 and Ethics in Action. So he's a writer, and he was educated at St. Anthony's College, Wattala, and St. Benedict College, Kotahena. He earned a LLB from University of Ceylon and also practiced as attorney at law in Sri Lanka. But here, the more crucial part. Now, he was a legal advisor to Vietnamese refugees in UNHCR in Hong Kong. Then he joined the United Nations Transitional Authority in 1992 and became a senior human rights officer and later served as the chief of legal assistance to the United Nations High Commissioner of Human Rights Office. He was associated with Asian Human Rights Commission and Asian Legal Resource Center based in Hong Kong since 1994. And he was awarded in 2014 the Right Livelihood Award for his tireless and outstanding work to support and document implementation of human rights in Asia. Now you can see the amount of knowledge and experience he has into similar circumstances that we are facing in Sri Lanka today. So I very much appreciate and applaud that you are here, Basil, today to talk. Now, in summary, what I understood is need to be said in relation to constitution. Now, in our 5-pillar governance, we said constitution is supreme. But what happens if the constitution is manipulated? Now, then is this the supreme situation? Now, when the constitution is manipulated, what we call illegitimate activities become legitimate. Historic example is Hitler. This is quoted by Basil Fernando, saying he manipulated the constitution first. So all what his people or his forces did became legitimate. So they could not be taken to courts. Now, we may be having a similar situation or developing a similar situation in Sri Lanka as well. If the judiciary is under this falsified constitution, then is it supreme? Now, that is another question we have to answer. The legislature's role, that's our parliament's role, is to prepare laws. It is not there to create or manipulate the constitution. The constitution should be a document approved by the people. It is not a tool for political maneuvering. The application of the rule of law is the function of the judiciary. It is not the executive or the legislation. So now here we are, very clear things which I actually learned from his videos. But I thought I'll summarize it so that everybody kind of understand a little bit more about what we are going to talk today. So Basil, I'll stop share here. You can also share slides if you wish to. And thank you very much for joining.
Thank you very much, Tula. I'm very happy to be part of this. Now, you have already mentioned about me as well as a certain summary. So I will not go again over that, but may I make a small explanation?
Yes, I think it's good for you to, I think Basil is probably better for you to explain the detail because a lot of other people who are reviewing for the first time the video may want to have a little bit of basic understanding. That means this video stands on its own.
Sure, sure. See, first may I just mention my own history of my interest in this matter. You know, I passed from the Faculty of Law in 1972. As you know, 1971 was the insurrection, and several months the university was closed. At the time, there was only one law faculty, and it functioning taught only in English. It was small faculty. But what is important about that was we were so distant from the actual politics of the university life because much of that happens in the arts faculty and science faculties. So at the time, I did not have looked at it from that point of view. But when we returned to the university in 1972, we found details of a large number of young people who were killed after arrest. Now, for me, it was a shocking experience from a purely legal point of view. And that was never to leave for even up to now. How is it possible that in a large scale, people can be killed after arrest? This is not a question of their politics or their correct or wrong or anything like that. Nothing to do with that. It's just a legal question, you know, of the very fundamental issue about constitutional law and also the criminal law is the protection that is should be available to a person once arrested. Now, this simply disturbed my entire career after that. Then I went where I started practicing, and I again began to see that what is in the book and what is happening in the basic institutions which are related to the law, there's a vast difference, particularly. uh, Policing, People have sometimes a very negative idea of what policing is. But in a legal system that is functioning, rational, it is one of the most vital institutions of a democracy. Unless you have the capacity, the state has the capacity to ensure that good laws are passed and that those laws are enforced in the manner that is required, then the whole system gets disturbed. And I saw that throughout. I've been to many courts from the bottom up to higher courts. It's not the what I saw was not primarily the independence of judiciary was not in the character of the judges or the issues like corruption, which is, I mean, at latter time there are all kinds of things, but these were not the main issues, but the pillars on which a judicial system stands were very gradually becoming less and less functional from a rational point of view. And it is this which we saw in a big scale in the 80s, both in the south as well as north and the east. And then I saw it in the purest form in the 3 years that I had to work in Cambodia. There I saw where political crisis, civil war, virtually have destroyed even a memory of a legal system. And the shock that, many narratives that I could narrate on this, very, very long, which I'm not going into, but it really showed a legal system cannot be taken for granted. Even limited achievements which were achieved during a colonial time, they were important achievements because in our country we did not have a rationalized system of what can be modern cells can be called a legal system. The so in a setup like that, the things that are planted with a great difficulty are very important because you have to build on that, not to destroy that. Because once that memory is lost, then something much bigger than a political crisis takes place. Even politics can do very little in a country where the people as a whole cannot make a meaning out of the legal terms, legal procedures, and things that are happening because this memory has got disturbed. Uh, is it better for me to speak in Sinhalese or English for a larger audience? Tula?
Basil, එහෙම කමන්නේ. You can talk in hybrid සිංහලෙන් කතා කරත් ටිකක් කමන්නේ. It's okay.
වැඩි දෙනෙකුට තේරෙන දෙයක් තියෙන විදියක් because I just want this to be understood. So anyway, I will try to use both languages.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this had preoccupied almost 50 years of my life. Almost daily I have worked on this issue, and daily I find the situation of absence of understanding of the problem more than this or that person being bad or the corruption or all these issues. Absence of the importance of the legal norms in building of a social fabric for the economy, for the governance, and for our social life. We have not developed this area very much. And I think partly the legal community itself is also responsible for never pursuing this into the people so that at least the middle class the thinking groups to understand how what really took place in a country. So it is with that in mind that I have posed certain questions arising from the two videos, and I try to deal with this uh, in a different way in the video, because I do not primarily see the judiciary lacking independence as the main problem, as an internalized problem. That's the problem of judges. Not that I'm in any way excusing them, but the way we have built the system, we have created a judiciary, particularly within the last after 1978, which I call in single is that asarana adhikarana. Even if anybody wants to do something, as for example, Mr. Neville Samarakon wanted to do at one stage after he understood how trapped he was, you get more and more trapped within that the system, because they have been their powers have been undercut, not directly taken away, and that aspect is also there. It is more the systemic um, the basics have been taken from below. So I would try to explain this both theoretically as well as practically. I put down certain questions around which try to explain what I have said in the two videos. First of all, when we talk about the five pillars problem, uh, we will here we will concentrate more on the judicial pillar. The achievement of ethical, cultural aspects of change uh, uh, through legal measures uh, to ensure the system changes in Sri Lanka. Now, how does the following things get reflected in Sri Lanka present context? Ethics of respect for human life and human person. What do you see from an ethical point of view about the respect for human life and human person? Ethics relating to equality and fairness. Ethics relating to uh, the accountability and transparency. Now, in trying to ask this,
Basil, shall we take some feedback on those three questions
sure,
from the audience? Because I think it might give you a feedback for you.
yeah,
If you go back onto your slide on the ethics.
ethics of relating to life,
Yeah,
respect
let's
for
go
life.
one by one, and then I think we should record a little bit of feedback into it.
Yeah,
Let's ask from the audience if anybody wants to speak a little bit about it. Ethics of respect for human life and human person, ethics related to equality and fairness, ethics related to accountability and transparency. I mean, this is a big subject, but it's good to see what others say about it. Anybody want to talk about that? It's good to get a feedback. Yes, Faisal, yes, you can speak, yeah.
I can you hear me?
Yeah, you can.
Uh, as I can see it, looking at Sri Lanka's 76-year experience, the problem seems to lie, not problem seems to lie, actually it really lies there. The human factor in implementation of sometimes call it the political will. See, the laws are there in Sri Lanka very often, see, most of the time. But what is not there is the political will. I remember Lakshman Khadragama also mentioned this once. You see, the people, what is the use of having all these laws? Now, recently, much publicity was given to as much as that given to the fact that as much as 75 laws have been passed during these few months by the present government. But what is the use of those laws if the man behind responsible for implementing those laws are not interested and not activating them? What is the use? So the problem is really there, not the law. Thank you.
I think this issue, I deliberately wanted this issue to come up. That is the reason why I raised this question in this way. I fundamentally disagree that the problem we have is one of only mainly of political will. When we talk about ethics, we are not talking only about the ethics of leaders. We are talking about the ethics of a society, us as a society as a whole. What is our ethics relating to the three questions we asked? Human life. How many of us are shocked by the fact that after arrest, tens of thousands of people have been killed? This is not just a political issue. Now, when we talk about a Holocaust in in terms of Jews, the world is thoroughly shocked that that went to that extent that the German people were allowed this kind of thing to happen, and the Germans took that very seriously after Hitler, and there was an examination of conscience within the whole society. A tremendous amount of changes in the attitudes, in the educational system, happened in order to ensure that the people, the people didn't say Hitler did this. They are best psychologists, and there is a famous book called the Inability to Mourn and Under Berikam, unwillingness to admit. One of the greatest psychologists wrote that book, and it became a household book in Germany, I was told. They began to examine how is it that we allowed this to happen in our country. And the same kind of questions, it is this is the aspect that is missing in our discourse. Always it is the political will. Whose political will? Who creates the political will? If the people don't have a will, can they create politicians who has a great will and who will do great things? If the people don't care, and it is not due to their because in that they were never being introduced, they were never being educated on those areas, they were never being made to think this is fundamental to us. Somebody, when one man dies, all of us die, and there is so much of murder taking place in the country. Now, where is the social protest? The ruin of human life in terms of the youth. Now that is also life. Where is the societal protest? So there is something in the in our ethical means, not law, not how many laws doesn't decide ethics. The ethics is decided even where the long before the laws develop, even human society, enforceable laws as we have, people develop their ethics, whether it is the Buddhist ethics as we have in our country, respect for principle against killings, principles against violence, uh, all this developed long before laws. And the same with the Judeo-Christian tradition. When we say thou shalt not kill, it was not in a sense of a modern law. It was not imposable by putting people in prison. But that ethical sense developed later into laws. What happens if the laws are made without that ethical norms being part of the people? And of course, there was a reason why that happened in Sri Lanka, because we got most of our laws during colonial times. And it was not an internal process. If you take the United Kingdom, Britain, it was in the struggle against the monarchy and also the powerful elements of a feudal society that we see the development of the rule of law. It did not come from heaven. People opposed what was happening, so it was an internalized process. The law and the legal parliaments and all that merely recognize what the people have recognized already. And what has happened in with us, even after 75, not 75, it's about 200 years, we did not internalize the ethics behind the laws. So you cannot enforce the law, particularly in the basics of law, unless it happens in the heart. If the people don't come forward to defend their neighbor against murder, and if the people are so low that they make use of unrest in order to write petitions to get their neighbor's child arrested because of jealousy. And this is something that has been noted by the people who studied these killings. Many of them, 15% of people who were victims of disappearances in 1980 period were children below 19 years. Now, are these terrible terrorists? These statistics are from the government, commissions. 15% of about 30,000, and that's a conservative number. 15% are children below 19. How is it possible that an adult society can take a child to arrest, after arrest, and inside this thing kill and bury and forget about it? So
Mr. Basil, uh,
yes.
coming to the point which Ranjan raised,
Yeah.
Blaming the politicians, I think this particular blame on ethics should be on the responsibility of the Bar Association and the judiciary, because laws cannot be just passed without the legislation only. It has to be consulted, it has to be with the public and judiciary consultation, and they have to agree before a law is passed. What's happening right now is the executive is doing all the processes by themselves. There's no consultation, there's no cooling period, there's no feedback taken, and they are going about the law. Now, the duty to uphold the law is the bar, the prosecutor's office, and the attorney general office, and the justice secretary. If they are not doing the job, then it's the people's duty to ensure these people are put back on the track, because we are the constitution. Now, you come from Hong Kong. We have the ICAC there, right? what do? They oversight all departments. Who is going on corrupt, and they answer to the chief executive. And whoever is corrupt, they bring up these cases against them. Let it be the chief executive. The chief executive of Hong Kong was jailed. Donald Trump was jailed because he went above the law. But what are the, only recently, because Salio Pereira, who was in Bar Association, got involved with politics, and he was fighting for the right of the law, the entire law society came down and stood against the politicians. And that should have happened long time ago, which never did. And the people slept on it, just voted for people to come into government. So I think the problem here is the ethics must be from the judiciary. Like Chula said in the start, it has to be independent. It should not be dictated by the executive or the legislative arm. But none of the lawyers stood, including two of your prominent selves. Where were you? I'm just asking you. I'm not against you, but I'm asking, where was these lawyers? Where were they sleeping all these years? We have gone through this for so many years, and we are easy to blame politicians for it. But what did others do? What did the other branches do? What did the public do? Nothing.
I think
Just
we are
because
talking
another
beside the point, because on that we don't have disagreement, right? I
Yes.
don't think you're addressing the issue that I'm raising.
Yeah, but my point is you're talking about detention. Even in Hong Kong, there are a set of detention rules.
I'm not talking
right?
about detention. I'm
Yes.
talking detention as an example. Regarding Hong Kong, I will tell you the history of. I'm very much student of, not only a student. I know that subject about ICAC very much. I'll tell you what was behind the ICAC and how it came about. That story we will come under the different questions I have posed. But I think we are talking on two parallel lines. I have no disagreements with the things that you are saying, but I don't think you have yet.
Look at detention rights. Even the detention rights. Even the detention rights, Mr. Basil, the Hong Kong police has a set of guidelines. First, they ask you, do you want a lawyer? Right? There is a set of things, right? Do you want to be represented? Do you need legal representation? They can only detain to a certain period. Everything is read to you before they even ask a statement to be given from you, right? So the problem is whether the police, whether the bar, the legal system will uphold this. It's not the politicians to uphold the judiciary. It's the judiciary people who are judges, lawyers, like yourself, NGOs, human rights activities like Muhajirin, all these people. They have to get active in this to make sure the law is protected and the law is enforced properly. But nobody did that. And now it's easy to blame Ranil that, oh, he put 75 laws. But he as a lawyer will bring in laws to tighten the weak points. But there's no consultation.
I do not agree with at all that nobody did anything. There are people who have been devoting their entire life trying to do it. But they are a minority. They are a small minority because there is a larger issue. The education that should happen to the population, so that the population will protest when there is either, for example, you say that the law is passed without consultation, which everybody knows. The question is, why is that the Sri Lankan people allow that? Why is there is no general protest? There is no general, whenever there are a small number of people who will file some petitions, and the very process was closed.
Mr. Basil, you're now bringing the blame back to the people. Where were the lawyers? The lawyers know the loophole of the law. The lawyers know the judgment of the law. Why were they not protesting? That's my question. Where is their ethical standard and oath they took on office to defend the law and the constitution of the land, of the law of the land? So we can't blame only the people, or we can't blame the politicians. The people need to the.
Shall we move on, because we are deviating from the topic? I think there's an ethical issue that needs to be brought up. I mean, let's listen to Basil. There are two other people who raised the hands. Basil, you want to shortly answer them and then we carry on from there?
I think Basil's sound went off, or
I
he.
think, hang on just a second. He's here. He's there. His sound went off here. That's what happened. Let's
Yeah.
see.
See,
Yeah, Basil.
we will. I think this is a very good kind of a discussion, because I think we have a difference of opinion, very serious
That's
difference
Never mind.
of approach. Not that either of us are correct, but we are reflecting two different perspectives which should be more united. That is, democracy is about people. Unless enough work is done on the ground to get the people involved, not merely giving votes, come and voting during elections, but to come and get interested in the day-to-day issues of lawmaking, law enforcement. You know, I spent 12 years collecting 2,000 cases of torture in Sri Lanka, which is published in a book with 403 cases of brutal torture at police stations. That is out of 2,000 cases we did research, and we did our best to take it to the public. There was hardly any interest. Particularly Sri Lankan middle class, that is not an issue. Policemen beating up people, that is not a big issue. You try to take the tax a little bit, that's an issue.
Basil, there's a bit of a vicious circle here.
Yeah.
Sri Lankan at the moment, I mean, I talk to a lot of people, they're really frightened. They don't come forward at all. And some people actually blame me for putting on the WhatsApp group. One person actually chased me and rang me and said once for joining a WhatsApp group, he was taken to the CID. So this is the kind of situation that is in Sri Lanka in relation to suppression. So there is a big issue of this. I mean, it has gone on like in a situation where the law has been changed and all this has become legal kind of thing. So two people have raised their hands. So we need to move with the presentation. So I'll ask Sunil to talk. Yes, Sunil. You need to unmute as well, Sunil.
Yeah,
You're still muted.
a very good discussion today we are having about this. I like it very much. And he brought so many things that and he elaborated. So in short, in briefly, I would like to ask one question, not a question, but just my view about this fundamental rights jurisdiction and its exercise. Article 126 says it should be 30 days. Within 30 days, you have to submit your application to the Supreme Court for your fundamental rights application. Now, these 30 days have been there for the last 36 years. And every lawyer, and thousands of cases have been dismissed, right, time barred and thrown out. But still, it's very unfortunate, not a single parliamentarian as a personal bill requested this to be changed to at least to 2 months or 60 days or 90 days, right? But I don't know why nobody has looked into it for the last 36 years. And thousands of cases have been thrown out. What is the reason for that? Okay, BSL is there, by association is there. Nobody has brought this up separately or in the parliament as a personal bill. What are your views about it? Mr. Basil can elaborate it, why it's remaining as 30 days. How is it in Hong Kong and other countries? I'm not aware, but in Sri Lanka it says 30 days.
I will try to address it a little later, associated with number of other questions which are related to fundamental rights. That is why I think there are, we are still under my introduction. The body of what I am about to say is below, and it will give you the background to discuss some of these very important. As much as you are concerned on that issue, I have also been concerned very seriously. But It has to be looked within a larger whole. Otherwise, I can say something, it will not have any practical effect at the end.
Okay, thank you. I can understand. Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Gratian, you are there, Gratian. Gratian, what do you think? Gratian? Gratian, we can't hear you, Gratian. Okay, Gratian is not there. So let's carry on, Basil. He's not there. Yeah, let's carry on. Yeah, thanks.
Now, the the issues that we talked about, then we will try to relate it a little below into, these are not the mere questions of law. These are questions of institutions. And this is two different things, related but different. The law can be there, but laws are put into effect by a different organization, institutions. So if there are problems within the institution, that is a different set of problems than just the law. For example, if the law says the crime should be investigated by the police, but within the system, there is no protection for the investigator. He can be removed. So if that is an institutional question, it is not a question about the law. The criminal procedure code will lay down the law, but it is a different set of procedures that gives the officer the power to go and do something. And if that is either not there or not allowed to be functioned. Now, Tula raised the question about people being questioned for putting up something on the Facebook or anything like that. Now, nowhere in the law says that you can do that, but they do it. Why? Because the machinery through which it is done, the CID can send you a letter. You are supposed to go there and make a statement. What is the basis? You can't ask anybody to be come to CID like that. Now, in a functioning system, you hardly ever get a call from any agency unless you have been suspected of crime to come and make a statement. So how is that this system has come up? That the whole system of interference, that you will get a telephone call saying that you will be killed, or in fact the people are being killed. Now that is not law. The problem is not with the law. Problem is there is a set of practices that has developed and which has been allowed to develop, which is the parallel system. The real system of rule in the country is different to what is in the books. So however much we keep on blaming the books or the people who are doing at the top not doing what they want. See, Attorney General comes to court and he does not do his job and prosecute a case properly. Now, can you blame the judge for releasing the accused? No, that is what is happening. That is not in a book. It is not in a book to say, the Attorney General should prosecute in order to release the people. The law says that he should objectively prosecute in a way. If a person is guilty, if there is evidence, it is his duty to see that he is punished or not to file the case at all. But that is not what is happening. So, we can abstractly say this fellow should have done it, this person should have done it. So, but the thing is, they cannot do it. because it never even come to them. All these corruption, if you are dealing with cases, you know, there are so many long, serious allegations of corruption for so many cases. You take the statistics of a number of cases that have been filed and number of cases that have been succeeded. First, filing itself is, if you get 10 cases, being, 10 is a very conservative number, very large number, the file, you find after about 3 years, one case is prosecuted. Is that law? Is it a problem about the law? It is not about the law. Law says you have the quick inquiry, have a proper, if there's evidence, prosecute. And then you go to court and spend there another 7, 8 years, or even more than that, dragging on. So is that in the law? Is the delay of justice in the law? The law says we are a signatory to the ICAC, the Civil and Political Rights Covenant. It says the speedy justice, and it has been defined in number of Sri Lankan cases. They say even 2 years is too much of time. Even 2 years, 2 months, 2 years delay is violation of fundamental rights. It has been held in 2 cases in by the Human Rights Committee of in Geneva. But that is the law. But actual fact, 17 years, 18 years. So the problem is not within the law or even these officers who are dealing. What can a judge do? You pay a heavy load of cases and people don't come to court and so many things, and then goes on and on and on. It becomes a pathetic sight to see 17 years case being dragged on. Sometimes the evidence is brought up in gunny bags. You can't even keep it on files. So we have a comedy in front of, not a comedy, tragic comedy in front of us, but we hardly, our discussions go into that. We go into some abstract few ideas, blaming this person or that person, and we think it will change. It will not change. In other words, what is needed in system change is not macro critique. What is needed is micro critique. You take police. Why? What are the problems of the police? Why are they doing this? What is the reason? If there are enough studies and that leading to public discussions, then it becomes a part of public education. Then people know what to demand. People, if the people say, yeah, police is bad, all this, but then they ask, but what can we do? But none of us, even in the more educated circles, have done enough work to show these are the reasons why these things are happening. Not always, not due to bad intentions. Bad intentions play a very important role, but that is not the sole issue. One after the cause and effect. Many problems are caused, and then as a result, other problems are created. So we have a system which is completely confused, that even a miracle worker cannot make this system work. So merely saying that so and so should be doing this, so and so, that is true. For formally they are correct. Otherwise they should resign. But when a system is so bad, then even resignation is no solution. So it is from that point of view that we look into what is the possibilities of systemic change. You are talking about the system change. So then if you are seriously looking at the system change, then we must say what is wrong with the different parts of the system. Like an engineer will look at it. And once again, the issue is not about the narrative, that how this happened. this year this happened, that year that happened under this system. They are all necessary as a good explanation. But we have to look at now. In other words, perspective should be now and the future. Now, how do you look at this problem? And what can we do about it? With the knowledge that this is where the system problem is, like an engineer look at it, or a surgeon doing an operation look at it, we see identify the problem and then look for solution for the problem. Now it is in these terms that I have posed these questions in relating to my presentation. To sum it up, say if a bad constitution exists, then what is the consequence? Now, can you have a good law under a bad constitution, which is supposed to be the supreme law? Now, why don't we ask a very common sense question? If the constitution is bad, how can that bad constitution, within that, the overall other laws function? Then, in order to understand that, we ask a larger question: what are the features of a good constitution in democracy? Now, this is a question that has been discussed very thoroughly. Many places, particularly, I have chosen two examples: Germany and India. In Germany, the question came after the Weimar Constitution, under which Hitler used to come to power, and then how to not to repeat that in the future. And among the huge debate that happened, one giant emerged in the constitutional theory called Kelsen. Now, Kelsen developed the theory called Grundnorms. Say, the basically, Grundnorm theory is a very simple theory. The Google gives this summing up of that theory. A legal order, according to Kelsen, is made up of norms arranged in a hierarchical sequence, with one norm positioned above the other, and each norm gets its validity from the norm above it. The legal order symbolizes by the hierarchical hierarchy, which takes the shape is like a pyramid. See, when you at the pyramid, what was done in 1978, which has not been at all, discussed enough except superficially in this or that aspect of the Constitution, is that we changed the whole normative structure. Fundamentals were taken away. And now we want judiciary or others to interpret a bad system of norms, confused system of norms, and say, do a miracle. This is not possible. Now, this was understood in India. And when Indira Gandhi tried to do what they did in Sri Lanka, then Indian Supreme Court discussed the Kelsen's theory in their one of the major judgments, which later led to many other judgments. And this was formulated as a basic structure doctrine. That in a democracy, there are certain basics that legislature has no right to change. That there are certain basics. Now in India, they said the basics are that India is a republic that cannot be changed. India is a democracy that cannot be changed. The section of fundamental rights in India cannot be touched, it cannot be changed, and that it is a welfare state. Now, all these 5 elements are, they said, is unchangeable. In order to explain that, they said there are the power of the legislature is to make laws. When you are elected, you are not told, you are not given a power to change the constitution. You are only given a power to make laws within the framework of the constitution. What Jayajayawardene did was to remove that. He said anything can be changed in the constitution provided you get a 2/3 majority in parliament and the referendum. Now, both these are measures that can be taken regarding change of certain laws and certain changes in the constitution which are not fundamental, which are not basic. What we have changed within our constitution is the basics. We have taken away the basics, and that then we are asking that this is to work out a good system. The constitution has made the allowed law to be passed in 3 days. I mean that is a constitutional, mockery. Very idea of the consultation, very idea of people governing themselves. You can't just put something within 3 days, even before people get to know, like that, manipulated the everything that is involved. The judicial review was taken away. Of course, that was done in 1972, repeated. So when a judicial review is taken away, the judges do not get a chance to go into details and they take time, anytime, even after law is passed. If the law is bad, it has happened in Sri Lanka in the 50s, particularly regarding the minority rights. Certain laws which are passed, several years afterwards, the Supreme Court declared them to be null and void, saying that it is against the basic principles of rule of law. So you see, our constitution has removed the need that all law should conform to the principles of rule of law. Now, in the last week's discussion, there was this question of the spirit of the law and the law. The rule of law is the spirit of the law. He says you cannot do anything arbitrary. The lawmakers as well as the executive is prevented from doing something arbitrary. That is the spirit. So the law should be equal to everybody, and everybody should have obligation, same obligation and same benefits. The question of the minority issue will not arise if the constitution was like that everybody should have the same obligations and everybody should have same benefits. Whether your religion, your race, it doesn't matter. So we have removed these basics from within our constitution itself, and when the basic normative framework is wrong, how can there be the rest be correct? Now the associated with that, now we often look at the judiciary when from the point of view of independence, without relating it to the fact that legislature and the executive can make that independence, reduce that independence and weaken the whole judiciary. When judicial power was review power was taken, we are not we don't have the kind of judicial independence as, for example, in Britain. Even in theory, practice is a different matter. In theory, our judicial independence is without judicial review. So therefore, we are a second-rate the judicial independence country with the judicial independence. So the same happens if you don't allocate enough funds. That's which is the duty of the executive for the judiciary to function properly, so that they could have enough people, and above all, where there is no interference. And you know, in a rule of law country, it is one of the most serious offences to interfere in any way into the judicial process. You know that even Donald Trump has been accused, and so it's a very, very serious matter. Even if you in any way try to influence judicial process, for example, if you threaten a witness, or you try to have a contact with the witness, then you know you are immediately interfering with the judicial process. So now when you come to the question was raised about the ICAC in Hong Kong. ICAC was made possible because for 245 years the British established the basic rule of law system. So when they made a law relating to the corruption in 1964, the enforceability of the law was already guaranteed. They said that the basics of the ICAC is this. The most basic element is that nobody from the police service should be recruited into the corruption control agency, even as an investigator. This is the basic principle on which independence of the ICAC was guaranteed. The judge who made the recommendation for this commission, he said that when you allow police to investigate corruption, what happens is this information is leaked. If they are investigating into a policeman, particularly a superior policeman, naturally the information will be leaked to that person, and that person will destroy all the evidence and do whatever he can. It happened. There's a case, I don't want to go into details, very famous case around that, which created a scandal. They said nobody from the police should be included into any position in the corruption control agency. The people should be recruited from outside. They should be trained. They should be responsible only to the ICAC, not to IGP, not to the Inspector General of Police. The moment you make Inspector General of Police responsible, that is the indirect way for the politicians to interfere. Politicians interfere with the IGP. IGP interferes with the investigators, and that is how the whole system gets corrupted. So, in order for systems to work, there are rules. They don't just it is it's not about the you have to go into details as to why ICAC works and why the Sri Lankan Commission not work present times. And the same thing about Lee Kuan Yew. There is a famous story which I heard from very reliable source, that at the very beginning, Dea Jayawardena, of his career, when he as a prime minister first, he sent a delegate to Singapore, very close associate, in order to say, you stay a few weeks there, watch what they do, how did they achieve this development, what is their source of what is their secret. So he was sent with the knowledge of Lee Kuan Yew, and after about 2-3 weeks, Lee Kuan Yew called this gentleman for a dinner and asked him, what did you learn? You have seen, now you have been looking at Singapore. What did you learn here? He said, you know, this is a very technologically advanced place. Software is used everywhere. Lee Kuan Yew gave a lot of importance to use of software in administration. And many nice things. He said, Lee Kuan Yew said, sir, you have not learned anything from this place. Just tell your old man to put your house in order. And that is all what you can learn from the Singapore. What did he mean by putting a house in order? He put the whole law to function. Nobody could get away, violating the law. Whether it is about small matter like throwing a small piece of paper on the ground. My first visit was around early 70s, and as a young person, first thing I was told by my friends was, don't put anything on the ground, you will be fine. And that was so everywhere. There was not only law, there was law enforcement. So whether it is about corruption or whether it is about payment of taxes or running on the buses, I mean private business, but regulations are given. If you break the regulations, you will lose the franchise. The same in Hong Kong. The entire system of transport efficiently and beautifully run, but it is private, but there are rules and the rules are enforced. So this capacity to not only have rules, to have the will and capacity to enforce it and put the resources for that. From I think our leaders, beginning from DS and I, they were administrators. They were not politicians. They were not people who have run states. So they did not know where the machinery is. They said, if you develop agriculture, country will be fine. Or somebody else will say something else. But the whole machinery of the state was allowed to degenerate. So much so, one of the Supreme Court judges, Mr. Kulatunga, K.M.M. Kulatunga, who was retired, who retired sometime back and later died, wrote a book which is there reference in the Google called Disorder in Sri Lanka. He noticed a period of disorder is descending in Sri Lanka. And he wrote that book and he said, I'm dedicating this to future generations. I hope what I predict will not happen. But in fact, that did not prevent. So there is disorder. You can create disorder. And when you have disorder, you can discuss about this or that aspect of that disorder. The fact that, the people are intimidated, there will be violence. These are all pieces, bits and pieces. But what is the fundamental, the grounding of this situation? So unless we take that into effect, like in Hong Kong and like in Singapore, which were following essential aspects of a system from developed countries. Not everything in the developed country was followed in the same way, but they got the essentials, how to run a state. And those basics were rigorously applied. So, how this related to the whole issue of ethics and all that is, see, I saw when I came, I have been here now for over 30 years in Hong Kong and several other places. What I saw when we first came was boats here and there don't spit. On the roads, for the Chinese people had this habit of spitting everywhere because that was from the past. They had this habit. And then they will say in the buses, they'll put a board, we are of pickpockets. Now you don't get any of this. And in the trains, the plainclothes officers were put in order to ensure that the women are not harassed, no sexual harassments inside the train or in this was done, and within a short time those habits which were there were broken, and today nobody complains about in a big way. Now and then there can be some this thing, but by and large, even at the midnight or any time, young girl can go anywhere and come back without fear. Now that these are the same thing in Singapore. For example, Lee Kuan Yew put laws saying that public toilets should be flushed, otherwise there will be 500 Singapore dollar fine, because people were not used to it. But it was by effort, the people were taught, we are living in this modern kind of society. In order to live in that, you need to do various things. So they were, on the one hand, encourage education. For example, in Hong Kong, half of the budget to deal with the corruption goes for education. Only other half goes for law enforcement. So on the one hand, education. On the other hand, law enforcement. Education without law enforcement doesn't work, because people don't see law being enforced, although they learn it in the books. On the other hand, law enforcement without education also does not happen, because people don't know what these things are for. So we did not go through for various reasons, which is not enough time to go into all these processes by which to ensure that laws are not only made, but so see the weakest point of our system now is the criminal investigation system and the prosecution. These are not just one or more functions. This is the heart of a running of a system. We are talking about system change. If we cannot change the law enforcement through criminal justice system properly working, which to some extent happened some time back. Some extent, I'm saying not fully, but satisfactory extent happened one time back. Today, criminal investigation system is so despicably bad. Prosecution system is now, today the people talk about it as a washing machine. Openly, in the media, prosecutors department, attorney general's prosecuting function is so washing machine. That is, you go there to wash the wrongs and to release people who have done serious crimes, and that we saw in the Ratu Vassala case and so many cases, and there people are expecting the same thing to happen in many other big cases. So these two functions, if these two functions fail, don't have any future thinking about system change. If Sri Lanka has to change, it must begin with fundamentally on trying to get reforms in two areas. Criminal justice system must work. Prosecution system must work properly. Not what in 2015 the mistake they tried to make was, okay, let's try to prosecute without a proper system, without proper investigations, without proper, so it can't work like that. System will work, it's a legal system. The electing people is one kind of activity. Punishing culprits is another kind of activity. Both has different kind of laws. You can't say, now we have won the election, therefore punish the perpetrators. Then you must have a system to punish the perpetrators with. And if that system can help the criminals, then there is hardly anything you can do at the end. People will get more frustrated. So we have to see how the judiciary has total judiciary. We are not talking about only about judges, but judiciary means investigations, prosecutions, then the judicial function with all the necessary means to doing that holistic approach to this. Then that is where the judicial delays as in Sri Lanka can happen only in a country of enormous stupidity. It betrays everything. Judicial review betrays the judicial system. And that this is not taken as this taken as if the way it happened and the way we did away with day-to-day hearing of cases. Today we have part of the case. Another 6 months time there's another part of the evidence, and this can go on for years. So that with same court, case is heard by 7-8 judges. Each judge only hears a piece of this thing. How can he make a proper judgment? Because witnessing the demeanor of the witness is one of the fundamental aspects of a fair trial. So we did away with all that, but we expect the miracle that the system should work. So if we are serious about this whole issue of our system change, priority should be given to these as this is not the final, this is not the very end, but this is the necessary beginning of a system change. So I have made about three suggestions. So to make I suggest that the leads can take a step towards making of a comprehensive statement on the system change, treating the system as a one single system consisting of economic, governmental, and legal entity. The purpose of this statement is to illustrate that mere piecemeal approaches to this or that problem will not result in a system change, but complicate the matters more. So if we ourselves make our mind clear that this is what it involves in system change, it can guide us and it can also guide other people. To give priority of policy of putting the house in order as the first step to create the necessary environment to form move from disorder to order. This means that measures to ensure enforcement of laws within a framework of just system of laws is within the rule of law system is as a necessary first step to bringing the system the kind of system that we wish to have. So these are the two basic suggestions that I'm making. In other words, prioritize where to begin. This is not where to end, where to begin. And it is that in terms of that I try to answer some questions that came up. For example, the question of the fundamental rights and this debating. This is just a facade. Our fundamental rights bill is more of a facade than a true Bill of Rights. Compare that with the Indian Bill of Rights, which is considered the fundamental part of the Constitution, which cannot even be changed. Here, it was just put in order to give some respectability, but the same thing that was given in one hand was taken away. That is what the one month rule was. It's almost impossible for people living in the throughout the country, within to file a case within 1 month with all the necessary these things. But this has been known from the beginning. The protests were there from the beginning. Even good judges at the beginning were opposed to that. They held the 30-day as mandatory. For example, even Justice Mark Fernando, who later became much more progressive, even he held 30 days strictly should be enforced, because we have not absorbed the idea that these are fundamental rights. How can you put a limit to a fundamental right should be within a 1 month or any it has to be a very reasonable enough time for people to come to court, talk about it. Secondly, what are the remedies of that fundamental rights? You can you can have a case where Supreme Court will find somebody has violated the right and he can be IGP. Man who has been found to have violated a torture act and in a sexual torture is the IGP of the country. And many others who have been throughout, found guilty were given, it has no impact. And some little compensation, and that is all. That is not a fundamental right issue. If it is a fundamental rights violation, there has to be reflected by the kind of remedy that you give. See, the fundamental principle of there in the convention, the Civil and Political Rights Covenant itself is Article 2. A remedy must be equal to the wrong. There must be a sufficiently grave, response to a grave wrong. Otherwise, we are just playing around the law. And my problem is civil society must first be a critic of itself. If the civil society doesn't become a critic of itself and say, why is it that we can't, make ourselves, this kind of discussion, nobody can stop. If you go into a more deeper discussion, there is no way to stop that, by, calling to CID or, of course, if you put a Facebook something, they can distort that and do various kinds of things. But serious work, because this is a serious problem. We are today, whenever from the day I came from Cambodia, I lived with the fear that we are slowly going there. And years that have come, that is from 1993. That was when I was last there, 94. Last there means I go there very often, but I was working. The nightmare of what it means to have no law, no protection. I have written a book which is they are available in the YouTube called Body, Mind, Soul and Society. There I have given part of narratives from this Cambodian experience. It is unbelievable. Can you have for people who have passed only fifth standard primary to be judges in the country? Can you have a country where even the destruction of the intellect was so much? One of the countries which came up first, it was a rich country one time, but at that time you cannot find a person to teach the primary school. Even that kind of education was not there. So the destruction one is beginning to happen, knows no end. And we go from one country to the other, you will see that. You will see it in Myanmar, you will see it in Cambodia. In my capacity, in my last 30 years, I have been to all these countries. I work with lots of people and I've seen what is there. In a way, we are still better than this. So we are, we have been going down the drain, but we still have the kind of human talent, kind of capacity still left. If people work hard enough to get these ideas through instead of just being this, cliches, living by cliches. This is what is there. This is not system change. We have to go. My suggestion, and I have advocated this for several decades. Begin micro. Study, for example, within our setup, I'm sure there are experienced people who could say, and we can contact others, what happened, what went wrong with the police, and how to correct it. There are people who have a lot of, but they are not consulted. They are not brought into the public debate because they don't talk about politics. They talk about what the same the issue about prosecutors department. There are people who are thoroughly frustrated, the people who work there, and they doesn't want even to think about that situation. Same about the judicial problems, lawmaking. It is time that we just don't put too much of emphasis on this half-educated or no-educated politicians and their discourse, and we go and tag ourselves behind that and try to argue this or that against what this view. It is not even in their head. Many of these problems are not even there. It is inconvenient for them to have an anti-corruption agency like Hong Kong, because within months, the anti-corruption agency in Hong Kong worked within months. Within the first year, they were able to eliminate large body of corruption. By fourth year, virtually eliminated. Today, I have been 30 years. Nobody has ever, even indirectly, hinted anything about bribery. Anything that you want to get it done, you go in the proper way, you make your application, and the right time you get it. You go to the bus stand, you get the bus within a few minutes. These are things that can be achieved by human effort. But there has to be a will that grows from within the society. Fabric of society should determine the political will and make the politicians to serve that will of the people. If the people have no will, then we have to submit ourselves to the will of these people. So this is broadly a very vast subject. We can keep on talking for many this thing, but basically, but I have to submit.
Thanks, Basil, for that talk. I mean, I can understand. I mean, I'm not any legal expert, but the relevance of what you're talking. And slowly, we have started to speak up, and then people listen to what we are talking. And we need to take it forward. And thank you for giving some advice on those slides. If I can have those later on, I'll be able to work on that as well. Any questions from the audience? We got no questions, but we can really see
I
the
think Gratin had a question before. I don't know whether he got time to answer.
who?
Gratin Pires or somebody. He raised
Gratian,
his hand.
yeah, I tried to talk to him. He did not come up. Gratian, are you there still? Gratian? Hello? Gratian? Don't know whether he's gone to sleep. I'm not sure.
I think he's having issues with his mic, I think.
Yeah, but he normally talks if he's there. Okay, let's see. I think we really have to move forward, and it's good to prioritize at least something about the nature of these things. What is legal? Say, for example, people dying in the police, is this legal thing? Things like that can be raised up. in these discussions in this big election scenario. Unfortunately, these election forces have moved to the same 76-year-old model that we've been following, and our people are also moving in the same direction. And see, let's see how we can make at least some kind of an impact and then move forward. Getting, if you as you say, Basil, I mean, get the bribery commission totally independent from the political matter. I believe there are people coming from police as well appointed there on secondment into the.
Yeah. I was set up. The whole seconded.
Yeah, so that has to completely stop. At least that kind of thing can be proposed and maybe brought to notice, saying that this is not functioning properly because of that. We will try to do things like that. Gratian has sent a message. See what he says. Yeah, he agrees with you, Mr. Fernando. He just says that Mr. Fernando's ethics, as you have pointed out, is the epicenter of the issue. So that's a comment that he's done. Leonard, yes, Leonard.
Yeah, I came a little late. Say there has been a lethargy in the public in approaching this issue. We have gone on for so many years, and people, make a little bit of noise, and then after some time, they comply with whether it's corruption or change of the way the politicians have worked. And it has gone on for so many years, as Basil was saying, say in Hong Kong and in other parts of the world, people take things very seriously. And if there's an issue, it's discussed and a solution is taken within few months. And you don't allow things to go on like this. It come to a point where the pillars of democracy collapses. Now, something that I have heard quite often from even academics, people tend to think that this legal system has come from the West, and some of them I have heard saying, we don't even need a law. People know what is right. They will do what is necessary. And we don't need these things that have come from the West. And to add to that, there's also the belief that before the colonization, we had a king, and king had all the powers, and there's no separation of powers. And this concept seems to be sort of, in the social consciousness, and some people exploit this. I could remember after the ethnic war, I was in Sri Lanka. I saw posters which indicated to Rajapaksa Mahinda, saying that you are our king. So this concept of king comes up, and in the concept of king, there's no separation of powers. And so there are two things. One is coming from the social consciousness that this is imposed on us by the West. And the second concept is that people know what is right. We don't need legal system sort of approach. And all these things are contributing to some sort of lethargy. And sort of, let's allow this to happen. And it's our culture, sort of, thinking. What do you think about that, Best?
Leonard, I don't know whether you're on our WhatsApp blog. Is that, are you getting our WhatsApp messages?
Let
I
me
don't
see.
think, maybe you're not in. I mean, it's not quite the case, because there are even younger people who really understand the problem and talk really well. And there was a young man who put a big talk about, say, 20 minutes or so. And he seemed to understand everything what we are talking about without being there. So I need to kind of share those things with you. I put it on our website as well. that one because in the system change phenomena website, because that kind of feedback is important. Then others realize that we are not, there are people who have a different point of view. Unfortunately, we are at the moment uh, listening to mostly to the politicians and their stooges. And the others don't speak that much up, except through the social media. Yes, Faisal, you have something to say.
Could I just a little bit comment on that, because I think what Pinto, Leonard raised resonate with
Sorry, this is not.
some intellectual circles. The you know the disease there is the fact that the revolution relating to reason and application of reason into everything, including governance, is a few hundred years old issue. We know the history from about 16th century of the whole development in the world, Western world, began with the outside, but this whole today. So therefore, this idea that a king was better than this thing is, today is a matter of shame even to mention. Today, to the people's understanding of the king as an absolute ruler who had the, what is a king essentially? King essentially is a person who had the right of life and death in his hand. It was not subjected to any kind of a system, any kind of rational possibilities. That is why there were all the revolutions, basic revolutions in for democracy, whether it is a French Revolution or all this. It is not it happened to be, actually speaking, much of the thinking came from many other quarters, even from Arab countries, where the Greek books and all these things have been there. And that's a completely different discourse, which was unfortunately, due to, this, there was a time when we thought we are superior to everybody, and that we had already solved all these problems. The fact is that rational forms of government can solve some of these problems. For example, serf. Now, one most embarrassing question that in Sri Lanka people are still so difficult to discuss is that from about 8th century, it is not the king who ruled, it is the caste system. King himself was a prisoner of the caste system. Caste system is a very rigid system of rules. That is, the job that you do is determined. Whom you can marry is determined. How much property can you have is determined. Where can you go, move about is determined. What can you dress, that is determined. For a lower groups, even male could not wear anything on the upper part of the body. This is Sri Lanka. And who imposed those things? The king was forced to, because this is the one area which people, for various reasons, still find it difficult to, because people think, some of these things have disappeared now. You can marry anyone you like, you can have any job, but that is not the issue. Caste was implanted in the people through fear. The deepening of fear inside the people is so deep. That is why people don't participate. We have not gone into this issue. Why are people so afraid to participate? Because participation meant you have no right to participate. If the top decides and you obey, And that was the you can live within your own framework, within your caste group, you can live your life, it's okay. But you have no right to express opinions in public. You cannot confront anybody who is of a higher degree. That is why the cruelty was considered as a virtue among the richer classes, Warawa people. They had to be, male had to be cruel. That was the ideology. So we have that much longer time than the Western influence. At least from about 8th century. This was our dominant way of thinking, way of working. And to get over that takes a long time. And all over the world, it is like that. See, in Russia, the Serbs, who were, later liberated, but still the serfdom created the kind of attitudes that was later exploited by others, because fear of participation, that equality is not within the heart. Inside you, you don't feel equal. Legally, you may say that I am equal. So this area, if for social scientists and others, what was done in India, like Dr. Ambedkar and a whole movement, examine why they were kept in under the untouchables and all these things, and they found ways of fighting back. Self-respect movements. They educated people. You are equal. It didn't happen naturally. The word Dalit was replacement for the word untouchable. Untouchable was a degrading term. The Dalit meant the Daridra. We are people poor and we are going to fight. That sense of human dignity was inculcated into the people. Same thing happened in the black movement in United States. Lot of education to get people to respect themselves and to fight back, to break down the fear. What is done in Sri Lanka through this lot of violence which are being used from time to time is to reinforce that old fear. If in the before coming elections there can be again violence, it is for the purpose of people not coming forward, people to take backward steps, because these are centuries old fears. So dignity, the developing, not just to say dignity, but the methods by which to help people to assert their dignity. Now that kind of movement can make a big difference to this kind of talk, that we learn from everybody, whether West or whether science, everything that we do, even in the kitchen, is from the West. What is it that we exclude? Do we exclude gas and the petrol and everything because it's from the West? And why only better ideas should be excluded from the West? It is not West. Actually, much of these ideas came from other cultures. Babylonian culture, Jewish culture contributed a lot for the development of the idea of the dignity, human dignity. Many other cultures, within their own setup, there were struggles, people's struggles, not the West or wherever there had been people who aspired for greater equality with each other, doing away with the slavery. The main thing is doing away slavery. The idea of not the slavery on the purest form, but many other forms of slavery. Look at our women today, younger people, people of 30, 40, they're all over the place in Middle East and everywhere. doing domestic work away from far away from their families for years, not for just 1 or 2 days. Virtual slaves.
Basil,
Halfway,
there are two other people raise hands as well. So because we got nearly 2 hours now. Nirmalan, yes, Nirmalan, you've been waiting for a long, sorry.
Yeah, so now first I want to make it very clear that what I have to say will probably take one of these entire sessions. So I'm not going to touch on that. I have posted 2 things there, Basil, and I'm very glad to see you after so many years, I think 30 or 40 years. So if you can read that, you'll probably get an idea of where I'm coming from. And Leonard was introduced to us, I think, at the beginning as someone who was interested or had a background in anthropology. And what I want to tell all of you is that what he articulated today, it may look trivial from a legal point of view or a political point of view, but what he articulated today is of utmost importance. It is something that I have encountered on the field, on the ground, and I can assure you that it is still very active within the political field in a transformed way. So please, all of you, pay attention to what Leonard said. And there are extensions to that. So give him an opportunity someday maybe to discuss that and tell us more about what he has seen about the rejection of the Suddha Ganitya. Apata Suddha Ganitya avashya nahe. And as he said, yes, we know what is right and wrong. And we have our king for justice. So this is deeply ingrained. Like Basil was talking about caste. Yes, caste is also ingrained. This is also one of those things which is deeply ingrained. And we have to take it into account if we are trying to get involved in some kind of major social engineering project that hopefully will bring ethics, the ethics that Basil was talking about, into our culture as a norm. So I just wanted to point you all in this direction. Thank you for the couple of minutes that you gave me.
Okay, thank you, Nirmalan. Yes, we are trying. Let's see with everybody's help how far we can make it. Yes, Faisal.
Yeah, I'll make it quicker. I think all of you, Leonard and also Nirmalan, hit the nail on the spot. Also the caste, and also Basil about the caste and the Raja rules, you know. But coming back is, how are we going to take this forward? Can we get somebody from Basil to join us, and we can educate, or we can ask questions from them, or to take this message forward through them as part of the judiciary to bring these reforms and changes? Because lawyers like Basil and Ranjan and all must be a member of Basil, or you have connections to it. I think we should work together to bring these proposals to them, or even bring them to one of these seminars, and so we can discuss with them, and so education and awareness can be gone through, go through their system too, to their lawyers, and to those young generation lawyers who are coming up, who can be taught to defend the constitution and the rights of the people.
Yeah, thanks, Faisal.
Thank
That
you.
is good. I mean, all these suggestions we discuss every week, but the workload that I have on my plate is continuous because there's so much happening or people wanting to do, but implementing things are not that easy because people don't come forward, and we are working on it. At least few people are coming forward. We've made some kind of progress, but still there's a long way to go. So we can't find answers very quickly. And the let's see, I mean, there are about 3-4 months to go before the first election round, and then we'll work from there. Thank you for all the support. Please keep coming in all your ideas and things, because that is how we are correcting ourselves. I would probably want a bit more inputs from Basil, please, in relation to these fundamental design of constitution, the fundamental design, so that makes it like the supreme law kind of thing. We'll work on it. We'll see. Yeah, thank you very much, because Leonard, I'm sure you will also join here as well, and including Nirmalan with your ideas. So let's take it forward. We're not really planning to stop, but we need more people working on the ground. That's what is important. And there are other people working, trying to get data and so on, because data is one of the best powerful things that will make a change or make people change. Say, for example, the data on the number of people died in the police and no action taken, number of children who died in the police, no action taken. Kind of that data is very powerful if you have it properly. So those are kind of things that will drive people thinking. So, I mean, being me in medical, I always value data. So if somebody has data, please forward it or present it. Thank you so much. Yeah, we'll meet again. And thank you for today. Very productive. And any ideas, if you have, just forward it to me. And there's a lot of correspondence going on at the moment with our WhatsApp group. And then, I mean, if you are there, then you'll see more conversation every day. Thank you so much. Okay, good night to everybody. So some it's good morning as well. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.